Good morning, everybody. This is Ronica Ondoxson with UAH with the Mentor-Protege Program. Dr. Golston could not be with us this morning. He had a conflict, so I'm going to walk us through our letting seminar today. We appreciate all of you being with us. We have two great presentations coming up in this seminar. We had more people registered, so as they come on, we'll just let them catch up, but I've got 5 after, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Our agenda is on your screen right now. Would like to introduce just some of the people that I see on the line. We have Donald Mills and Sherry Stoudemire from the University of West Alabama. They are with DBE Supportive Services. Cynthia Matlock is on with ENS. They do supportive services in the central part of the state. I don't know if we have anyone on from A&M right now, but Alabama A&M is in the North Region DBE Supportive Services. All of their contact information will be at the end of this presentation, or it may be the next slide, I'm not sure. But we have their contact information if there's a DBE that needs to get, there it is. This is all the contact information for DBE Supportive Services and for the Mentor-Protege Program. So feel free to contact any of us about today's seminar or any other things that you need, whether it's help from your supportive services or help with the Mentor-Protege team. Linda Delane is also on from UWA. She is on their team. I just saw her name, and she is listed there with the University of West Alabama also. Next slide. I'm not sure if we have anyone on from ALDOT. I have not seen anyone. Mr. John Huffman with ALDOT is the DBE Supportive Service Unit Manager. I don't know. Christine, is his contact information at the end? If there's anyone that needs to get in touch with him. If they do, you can contact us and we can get you in touch with him. First up, we're going to do the project letting information. This is our main component of our letting seminars, is to discuss the upcoming projects, ALDOT projects with our DBEs. I like to just highlight some of the bigger projects and some of the projects that have higher DBE goals, so that our DBEs know what's happening in their region and around the state. These projects are for the letting next Friday, and as the primes usually say, they like to have their bids in by the Wednesday before next Friday. So when we go through these, I'll give you the tentative bidders of the prime contractors that you need to contact if you're interested in a particular project. We'll go ahead and get started. Our first project is in Elmore County. It has a 7% DBE goal, which is one of the higher ones for this month. This is constructing a roundabout, which ALDOT, you'll see several of these on the letting this month. ALDOT had a program that they were running, and they were giving special funding for some trying roundabouts in some areas in the state. This one, the bracket estimate is $1 million to almost 1.3. There's demolition, erosion control, hauling, concrete, and utility piping. And I will say that if you see any of these projects that show roundabout construction, they normally do have quite a bit of concrete work in them. So if you are in that business, you might want to take a look at some of the roundabouts that ALDOT is going to try in different areas of the state. Tentative bidders, even though this is a smaller job, there's a lot of interest in this job. Chilton, DuBose, McElhaney, Asphalt Contractors, Newell Road Builders, Cornerstone Civil, Winston Contracting, Wiregrass, and Grady Rawls and Sons. So if you're interested in this job, there's a lot of prime contractors to get in touch with. Next slide. Project 12 is St. Clair County. This is only a 1% DBE goal, but this is a huge job. Bracket estimate 15 to over $18 million. So even at 1%, there's going to be quite a bit of DBE work to be done. There's demolition of guardrail, hauling, erosion control, and then installation of new guardrail. So this is pretty much just a straight paving job. So there are not a lot of sub items on this project, but there will be considerable hauling. There is a lot of erosion control on this project and the guardrail. Right now, there are only 2 tentative bidders, Good Hope Contracting and AG Pelts. So, you know, if you work in this area, contact either one of those because, like I said, this is a huge project. Next, number 16. This is in Limestone County. This is also another very big project and a very different project than we normally see. The DBE goal is 1%, but the bracket estimate is 9.5 to a little over $11.5 million. This is the construction of a new welcome center at the Tennessee-Alabama state line. So these tentative bidders will be bidders that you don't normally see on the ALDOT lettings because this is going to be more of a vertical construction project than a paving project. But ALDOT is the one that is bidding this work. So there's lots of different work maybe that is being done on this. So if you're a DBE that does, you know, the traditional ALDOT highway paving work, but you also do vertical construction, there might be some opportunities in this project for you. There's demolition, a lot of demolition. They're going to take down a lot of structures, remove a lot of concrete. There's hauling. There's a lot of new concrete work, sidewalks, curbs and gutters, all kinds of different pay items in concrete. There's steel reinforcement. There's guardrail. There's fencing in this project. There's erosion control in this project. And there's also landscaping in this project. And I don't mean just a few trees and shrubs. When I started looking at the pay items, there's thousands of shrubs and plants in this project. So if you're a large landscaping company or you're a small DBE landscaping company and you could partner with a large landscaping company, this project would be really good to look at. The tentative bidders, BH Craig, Forsyth Building, Consolidated Construction Company are mostly North Alabama.
In 1
Century
mile,
Construction,
turn right.
Century Construction out of Mississippi is on here also. So anybody looking maybe to do work in North Alabama, check out this project if you do horizontal or vertical construction. Next slide. This project's Macon County. It's a 6% DBE goal, which is a pretty good DBE goal. This is $4 million to almost $5 million bracket estimate. This too is pretty much just a paving project. So there's some demo, there's hauling, guardrail, and there's also bituminous scoring on this project. Bidders are Wiregrass and Mid-South. Next slide. This project's Madison County. This is another large, very large project being let this month. DBE goals 5%. So this is a great project for anybody in North Alabama or a DBE that's willing to travel. This is work on Interstate 565 here in Madison County. There's hauling, guardrail, erosion control, and bituminous scoring. The tentative bidders, Rogers Group out of Tennessee, Mid-South Paving, and Wiregrass Construction. Next slide. This project's Montgomery County in the southern part of the state. It is also a 5% DBE goal. Bracket estimate a little over $5 to a little over $6 million. This is also pretty much just a strictly paving job. There's a little bit of demolition of guardrail and installation of new guardrail, hauling, erosion control, and there is bituminous scoring on this project also. Your bidders, Dubois, Asphalt Contractors, Wiregrass, and Mid-South. Next slide. This project's Tuscaloosa County, 3% DBE goal. Pretty good bracket estimate, $5 to $6 million. This one, hauling, bituminous scoring, guardrail, and erosion control. Your tentative bidders, ST Bunn, who is always a bidder in the Tuscaloosa area, and Mid-South Paving. Next slide. This project's Jefferson County in the middle part of the state, 6% DBE goal. Little lower bracket estimate, 1.3 to a little over 1.5 million. There's a little demolition on this, hauling, erosion control, guardrail, bituminous scoring, but there is also some new concrete work in this project. So if you're a concrete DBE in that Birmingham mid part of the state area, you might want to look at this project. The bidders are Dunn Construction and Mid-South. Next slide. Project 54, it's a 6% DBE goal, bracket estimate about 3.9 to almost 5 million. This is a small bridge replacement. So there's demolition of the old bridge and a lot of concrete to go along with that. There's hauling, erosion control, guardrail. There is steel reinforcement on this project, which I know we have some DBEs that do that. There's also some new concrete work in curbing on this project. The tentative bidders, pretty long list. These are a lot of your bridge builders, but since this is a smaller bridge project, there are also some traditional paving contractors on the list too. You see them there, the Bridge Builders of Alabama, Dubois, Newell and Bush, Asphalt Contractors, and several others. So if you're interested in this project, there's a long list of primes that you could reach out to. Next project. This is our last one. This is the 9% DBE goal. Little lower bracket estimate, but I did include it because of the 9% goal. This is also another roundabout that ALDOT is doing. So this is going to have concrete work on it. There's demolition, hauling, erosion control, guardrail, but you'll see at the bottom under work types, the concrete, there is significant concrete work in this roundabout project also. Bidders are Taylor Corporation, McElhaney, Winston Contracting, and Wiregrass Construction. Next slide. Okay, that's projects covered for me for this next letting. If there's a DBE on the line that has any questions about any of the projects I highlighted or any of the other projects that are on the letting that we can help you with, we're glad to answer your questions. And right now we're going to start with our first presentation that we have today. This is on risk management for business, and we have Maurice Evans with SouthGroup with us, and our partner, Mr. Donald Taylor, connected us with Mr. Evans and his group, and I am going to let him introduce himself if he would like to, and start on his presentation for us.
Well, good afternoon. Can you hear me fine?
We can, thank you.
Well, actually, it's morning, so good morning to you guys. Thank you for the invitation. Again, I'm Maurice Evans. I'm the president CEO of SouthGroup, the Evans Agency. We are located in Jackson, Mississippi. We also have an office there in Birmingham. We are, next slide. We are 200 plus employees statewide in the state of Mississippi. We are the largest privately owned insurance agency in the state of Mississippi and the 95th largest in the United States. Our total annual premium is roughly about $160 million. Our home office is in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and we have 23 branches, and that includes our Jackson office and our Birmingham office. And so our goal at SouthGroup, our mission at SouthGroup, is to manage risk and to build personal relationships and partnerships in an environment of trust, integrity, teamwork, and stability. Next slide. Next slide, please. There you go. All right, so risk management. What is risk management? What is risk? Risk are the potential of losses. And risk must be quantified. I like to say that it's impossible to manage what you have not measured. And so we've got to be mindful of managing the risk that our companies have, and all of our companies have unique types of risk, especially in the construction industry. So risk management is the process of managing the uncertainty of exposures that affect an organization. So again, each and every one of our organizations have different types of risk and exposures. But all of us have three types of risk. Next slide, please. Business, strategic, and hazard risk. And there's only 5 ways to manage those risks. First of all, you try to prevent as much loss as possible, but all of us know that it's impossible to prevent all losses. Secondly, we try to mitigate those exposures by putting in proactive strategies that will, if there is a loss, it will reduce the severity of that loss. We try to transfer those risks contractually. We naturally assume some level of risk ourselves. And then if we do those 4 things in our business, strategic, and hazard risk, if we prevent, mitigate, transfer, and assume more risk, then the financing of risk, which is insurance, is driven down significantly. So I like to just very quickly throw out a little exercise with you guys. When we're talking about assuming risk, many of us know that in the means of a deductible. And so I wish I could see some hands, but I'll just throw it out there. How many of you guys, all of us have vehicles? How many of us have a $5,000 deductible? So if I could see some hands, I'd look right now, but I can't see any hands. So, but I'm almost certain very few of us have $5,000 deductibles. On average, when we look at our personal automobiles and insurance, we generally have a $250 to $500 deductible. Well, if we're going to assume more risk, then we look at our past trends. We look at what have happened in the past 5 years. And if there's an area that you have not had a lot of exposure, you haven't had a frequency of losses, then you could assume more risk and drive the cost of insurance down. Next slide, please. So let's look at these 3 types of risk that you have: business risk, strategic risk, and hazard risk. Your business risks impact the day-to-day operations of your organization. It includes clients and customers, personnel, policies and procedures, and productivity. Your business risk, guys, will make sure that you are being as productive as possible in your company, in your organization. Strategic risk impact the financial future of the organization, your brand management, intellectual capital, losing or being unable to obtain coverage, and business continuity. I always like to talk about strategic risk and how it impacts the financial future of your organization. And I like to start with brand management, because there's a saying that if you're not managing your brand, then someone's managing for you. Whether you eat McDonald's or not, when you see the golden arches, you know what to expect from McDonald's. So when you look at your business and you're protecting the strategic risk, the brand management is important so that people know what you represent with your brand. And lastly, the hazard risk creates a physical loss in the company. That's your auto fleet, cyber liability, which a lot of us had not paid a lot of attention to cyber liability. But we've all seen of late how cyber liability is a huge exposure, even for smaller companies. So auto fleet, cyber liability, product liability, property damage, slips and falls, and workplace safety are all a part of these types of risks and exposures that you have. Next slide, please. So four quick steps, guys, and I'll move on to bonding, but just 4 quick steps to the management process. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about risk management than the time frame that I'm allotted today, I'd be happy to speak with you later. But the first thing we do is we try to identify risk. You've got to identify those areas of frequency, because ultimately frequency leads to severity. So we want to make sure that we identify those risks. But then we've got to quantify the cost. What does it cost me when I talk about my business risk and I'm dealing with my personnel? What does it cost me to turn over an employee, to train that employee? How does that affect my productivity? So all of those things must be quantified. We've identified an area, but now we've got to quantify the cost to understand what your bottom line really is when it comes to that type of risk. We've got to implement solutions. It may be some proactive strategies that we could put in place to help minimize those exposures that you have. So we implement those solutions to be proactive, and then we continue the process. We do that annually. We'll come in, we do an assessment of an agency or a company to see how have we improved over that past year. Next slide, please. Are there any questions that can be asked right now about just risk management before we go into this next section? Okay. All right, so next section, we're dealing with bonding, and this just basic bonding basics. The current construction and construction-related services in our country, they're approximately $784 billion. That's as of 2019, which equates to 4% of our GDP. There's in 2015, there were 7.8 million people employed in the construction industry. There's a huge demographic shift in the construction company owners toward minorities and women. And by the end of 2019, more than 50% of businesses entering into the construction industry were minority or female owned. Next slide, please. So who are minority contractors? 80 to 120,000 contractors and construction related businesses. Minority contractors represent about 12 to 15% of those firms in the construction industry. But minority contractors account for only 3 to 5% of construction industry revenue. So that's a big challenge that we face, guys, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next few slides. Next slide, please. So what are some of the barriers? What are some of the barriers to emerging contractors' entry and growth? First of all, there's contracting opportunities. A lot of times when we're looking at state and federal projects, those contracting officers want to see your past performance. And that's a challenge when you're a new or emerging company trying to grow your business, and those contracting officers want to see past performance. So we encourage some of our smaller companies to try to do joint ventures with larger companies so you can get that experience. So here's another barrier: information and management expertise, back office support and capacity. That's a big challenge for our smaller companies who haven't been able to invest in their back office. Trained and reliable workforce. We've got to make sure that we've got good trained people as we put them out there in the workforce. Capability and capacity. What are you capable of doing? Are you capable of pouring the concrete? Yes, you've done it on a $100,000 project, but now are you capable of scaling that to do it on $300,000 and $400,000 or $1 million project? So we help our small and emerging contractors to understand their capabilities and grow their capacity. Then there's performance issues and dispute resolution. We've got to be able to, guys, when we find that we have some issues on projects, that we get in there, get them resolved really quickly, and move on to the next project. Then there's a challenge, guys, that we all know of bonding and financing. For me, my background is actually, I'm a second generation brick mason by trade, and still a Florida certified general contractor. And one of my challenges, I was primarily a residential contractor. And when the market crashed back in 2008, I was forced to try to get bonding. And that was a tremendous challenge for me. And so when this opportunity came for me to move into this industry, that was the area that we chose to focus on primarily, was contractors and surety bonding. Next slide, please. So how contractors have addressed the barriers to bonding. They've only bidded projects or work that did not require bonding, bidding under the prime contractor's bond, which again does not help you grow your capacity, advocating for bond waivers. A lot of small contractors try to advocate for waiving those bonds. I actually have a landscaping contractor in Jacksonville, Florida, who was complaining to me about a $5 million bond on a project. I quickly explained to him that his competition, who had been bidding with him again on city projects, their capacity, they were unable to get a $5 million bond. And so it eliminates, those bonds eliminate a lot of competition. So the more you can grow your bonding capacity, the less competition you actually have on some of these projects. And so I had to explain that to him, and he was amazed. He said, "Maurice, I can't believe you sold me on bonding." So we've got to grow that bonding capacity. So here's another way they've addressed those barriers to bonding: advocating for alternative insurance or guarantee projects, and then obtaining first bond or increasing the bonding capacity. So we try to spend time with our contractors to help them understand how growing their bonding capacity is ultimately going to help grow their business. Next slide, please. So why minority and women contractors are an emerging market for surety bonding? Customer requirements. We're getting a lot of DB requirements, disadvantaged business requirements, certain percentage goals that we're seeing on state and particularly federal projects have DBE requirements. And so those requirements, now we're seeing more women and more minority contractors getting into those opportunities because of those requirements. Increasingly cost effective. Those smaller companies don't have the large overhead that some of our larger companies have, and so they're able to be more efficient, more cost effective than some of the larger companies. An excellent pool of quality minority and women contractors are emerging around the Southeast. I'm privileged to be working with approximately 30 contractors around the Southeast, and I would say probably 60% are women-owned business contractors right now. So we're thankful for our women-owned contractors and our minority contractors as well. It is historically a very underserviced industry by the surety and financial industry. So again, my experience personally was that I could not obtain the bonding I needed because I did not have the experience in commercial construction as I had in residential. So it was very challenging for me as a new commercial contractor to obtain that bonding capacity. Next slide, please. Okay, bonding, yes, bonding versus insurance. All right, so most people do not understand this difference. So I need to go ahead and I put this slide in here to help you guys to understanding that surety bonding is a non-traditional insurance product. Surety bonds are similar to bank credit. Surety bonds provides assurance that the business owner can complete the project and pay their bills. Surety companies guarantee 100% of the contract amount. So a bond, guys, is a three-party contract. It's a three-party contract between the contractor, the obligee, which is the owner, and the surety, which technically is the insurance company. Okay. So next slide, please. So there are three types of bonds. There's the bid bond, there's the payment bond, and then there's the performance bond. The bid bond assures that the bid is submitted in good faith and that the contractor will enter into the contract at the price bid and provide the required performance and payment bonds. The performance bond protects the owner from financial loss should the contractor fail to perform the contract in accordance with its terms and conditions. And then lastly, the payment bond assures the contractor will pay specified subcontractors, laborers, and material suppliers associated with the project. Next slide, please. And the cost of bonds generally run between 1 to 3% of the total contract price. I need to say that again. The cost of the bonds normally run between 1 to 3% of the total contract price. Now, there are some bonds that cost more because they have some risk mitigation factors. What do I mean? They have funds control. Many of you may have heard of funds control, where the surety will require that you have a funds control administrator that will pay all of the subcontractors and suppliers before the contractor gets his money. That's a risk mitigation tool that's used in the surety bonding world. And so that will increase the cost of your total bond. So on average, though, the bonds generally cost between 1 and 3% of the total cost of the contract, total contract price. The cost of the bond is an acceptable project cost that is passed on to the owner, and the bond premium is normally paid out of the first draw. Next slide, please. These pre-qualification for bonding, we like to call them the 3 C's of bonding. That's capacity, that's capital, and character. Capacity: can the business perform the obligation of the contract? Capital: does the business have the financial strength to fulfill the terms of the contract? And lastly, the character: historically, how has the business performed and what is the business's reputation? Next slide, please. Important information that's required, and guys, I can't stress this enough, that your financials will determine the cost of your bonding. So what do I mean by that? We've said 1 to 3% is generally your normal cost. Well, if you've got good financials, that's going to lower the cost of your bonding. So let me give you a great example. I mentioned my subcontractor in Jacksonville, Florida. Last year, 2019, he obtained a contract with the city of Jacksonville. I took him through SBA and had an SBA guarantee for his bond. And we were able to get him using a compilation. A compilation is an internal profit and loss and balance sheet that you can generate if you're using an accounting software such as QuickBooks. So internally, we were able to get him a one-time exception for $1 million plus bond using a compilation. That's a one-time exception. Guys, in order for you to do projects above $1 million, you have to have a CPA reviewed financial. The quality of your financials will dictate the cost of your bond and your bonding capacity. When you want to exceed that $1 million mark, it's best to go with audited financials. So let me show you how that directly impacts the cost of your bonds. I told you the first year that we were able to get that landscaping contractor that $1 million a year bond. It cost him 2%. The following year, I requested that he have a CPA reviewed financial completed. We did that, and we were able to lower that bond premium to 1.4%. So again, that's real money in your pocket. So we like to advise you, first of all, you got to have a great organizational chart for your company. You need resumes of your key employees. You need your business plan, financial statements, that's personal and corporate. You need a work in progress report. In many cases, you need a continuity plan in case you are injured. If you're the principal, if you're injured or for God forbid, even lose your life, then who will take over? Who will make sure that the work is completed? So sureties want to see a continuity and contingency plans in place, a list of subcontractor and supplier references, a bank line of credit if you have one, and then letters of recommendation. I tell always get letters of recommendation every time you complete a project. All right, next slide, please. All right, that is my time. I do have a few quick questions at the end. What types of insurance do I need for my business? You feel free. My email address is on the screen. If you're not certain of what types of insurance you need, then you can feel free to give us a call or email us. The three types of bonding. What are the three types of bonding? Bid bond, payment bond, and performance bond. What are the three types of risk? Business, strategic, and hazard risk. And what are the 5 ways to manage those risks? You prevent, you mitigate, you transfer, you assume, and lastly, you finance those risks. We're open for any questions at this time. I'm unable to see everyone, so if you want to direct me to any questions.
And also, this is Ronica. If you want to put anything in the chat, also we're monitoring that if you have a question through that. I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
That maybe the DBEs, would like to know, or when you talked about the 1% to 3% for the cost of bonding, if a DBE in our industry, they're mostly subcontractors to the prime contractors on these ALDOT projects. And for them, is that 1 to 3% for the total project or for their subcontracted portion of that project?
For their subcontracted portion.
Okay, so I think that's good for them to know, so they're not afraid of those, like some of the projects we just went over, the $15 million. They're not going to have to get a bond for that.
That's right.
Just for their portion. So
that is correct.
Okay, yeah, just to clarify that for them. Do you guys, any of the DBUs on the line, have any other questions, or anybody from supportive services if you have questions?
This is Blake Redmond. I've got something to sort of note, something that I kind of got burned on, I guess, that people should be aware of. I had a hard time getting like an actual bond rate from my company until it was kind of too late. I'd already won a job. Anyway, so I just plugged a number in, and come to find out, I actually have a scaling bond rate. So it starts out like really high, and then the higher my contract gets, the lower the rate. So they sent me like a formula, but I think I had like just 1.5, and it would have been like had a huge contract, but since it was like a smaller contract, my bond rate had a higher, my bond rate was higher, and so I didn't have enough money to cover it in my my contract. So that's just something to be aware of.
Okay,
That's it.
Thanks, Blake.
Just
Do we have
a
any other
lesson learned. Hmm?
Mr. Evans, thank you so much. We appreciate the presentation. Not only was it very informative, but the aesthetics of the presentation were great. I loved how it was put together, how it was presented. It was just really great. Mr. Evans and his company, SouthGroup, are available if the DBEs, if you're a DBE on the line and want to do some one-on-one consultation with them. Also, we are trying to work with them to do a seminar on this subject to go more in depth on bonding and some other things. So look for that. We appreciate being connected with SouthGroup now, so that we have a resource for our DBEs to turn to for questions in insurance and bonding and risk management. So, Mr. Evans, we greatly appreciate you being on our letting seminar today.
Well, we certainly appreciate the invitation, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much. Next, we are going to go to Blake Redmond. Blake is a DBE that we have worked with for several years now. He is doing lots of work in the North Alabama area. He is a DBE that has been able to really market himself and work in different sectors, which ALDOT always encourages our DBEs to do. You know, don't just depend on ALDOT work. You've got to branch out into all different sectors. Blake has done an excellent job of that. So he is going to give us just a little background on some of his tips for how he's been able to do that. And I see that he has his contact information on his slide. So Blake, I'm going to let you take it from here and tell us what kind of work you do and how you have managed to grow your business and be successful.
All right, thank you, Veronica. I guess give you a little background. My company is a little over 3 years old now. It started out pretty wild. I thought I was going to have a partner from a company that I left, and at the last minute, he sort of got cold feet and left me by myself. So I started the whole thing by myself, and I had created a website and a Google, and I was sitting in my house, and the very first day that I was by myself, I got a phone call for a concrete wall. So I just went out and started building stuff. With that being said, I guess I'll just kind of go down my little checklist on the right, and that is just knowing what you're good at. I've been working in commercial construction for a while, and specifically concrete and general contracting. So I was very comfortable building concrete walls, footings, most anything concrete, really. I would not recommend just trying to go out and just build a concrete wall if you didn't know what you were doing. It's very expensive, very easy to screw up. So if you're going to go out there and get into something, I would recommend trying to learn through working under someone else prior, getting very experienced at it, and you're banking your whole life, financial life, mental, financial security, everything on it. So you better know, you better have a really good idea of what you're doing and feel confident that you're going to be better than other people at it, because it's a big deal, it's a big risk, and people are going to pay you big bucks to come do a job. So whether you do a good job or a bad job, the word is going to get out pretty fast. The next thing, getting in with the institution. So, you know, just going back to having a little history, working good or bad, you know, the more you work out in the field and you just work with other companies and everything, people will get to know you. That's how you develop your reputation. That's how you develop relationships with other people. I've got like a few of the different entities that I've worked with, and they all come from past relationships before I started my company, such as CCI, Jesse Stutz, things of that nature. Those were opportunities from past relationships. You know, those relationships will get you to the next spot, or just doing research and you know, trying to figure out a way to just get a shot. And then usually it takes a lot of work to just get your first shot. And it takes a lot of work, research, sometimes luck. Just, you know, someone can just need something, just whatever reason, and then you will get your first shot. That first shot is extremely important because that is going to be the basis of whether they call you back or they don't. And if it's with a big entity that has continuous work, you definitely want to make the best impression on your first job. And usually on my first jobs with like a huge continuous entity, whether it be like the University of Alabama at Huntsville, any of the ones listed below, the Department of Public Works, any ALDOT prime contractors in general, just anybody that is gonna, you know, that you want to develop a relationship. You know, I usually give them a fairly cheap price on the very first job just to entice them to use me, just to see what I can do. And then once I work in the field, you know, they always want high quality and they always want speed. They want, you know, they want the job to progress. And if it looks bad, whether it be concrete slab, curb and gutter, you know, anything like that, you know, that's going to reflect on them. They're going to have to put their name on it. And so you want them to be proud to put their name on it, or do you want it questionable? And so that kind of sets the tone for all the continuous work. And then the continuous work is how you keep your business going. I mean, I don't search for a lot of work at this time. I just have like a few key entities that I just constantly work with. And it just simplifies things so much to just develop a relationship with someone and then just have work just continuously be fed to you, as opposed to constantly having to go and chase new work, build relationships from scratch, you know, just whatever it may be. And the more you work with someone, the more you understand their expectations, their processes. I have ventured out a few times and worked with some new contractors, and it's really been a nightmare just learning everything that they need, just the amounts of paperwork, stuff that they are not very clear about in the beginning. And anyway, if you can find like someone that you can work well with, someone that pays fast, someone that that just sets clear expectations at the beginning, I mean, that's someone you want to work with. And then if you do that enough, you know, they will tell people, and you really don't even have to do a lot of marketing because just your reputation is going to start speaking for itself. I had like three phone calls about jobs yesterday, and I think 2 the day before that. And it all sort of spawned from sort of my key clients. And so I'm not sure what the rest of the state markets are looking like right now, but Huntsville is booming. And as long as you just do a good job, then, you know, you'll get work. So I hope that kind of gives you a little insight into breaking into some of these big commercial institutions. I can go into how I got started with each one of these. It's all over the place, really. NASA, for instance, NASA, I learned about, they've got it's called an IDIQ contract. And you get on the contract and they just they constantly come out with projects and they send it out to everyone listed on the main contract. I actually learned about that at a DBE presentation in Huntsville. And the NASA is specifically for Marshall Space Flight Center that's out on the Arsenal here. I have done a few jobs for them. They have a lot of general contractors, electricians, plumbers. So whenever they come out with a project, they send it out to everyone, but it may only be in the wheelhouse of a few of the contractors. But I do concrete, and so they have a lot of sidewalk projects, small civil projects, dirt projects, and that's a lot of what I do. And so there's not a lot of competition. So that's a really good contract to be on. And they're really hard to it's really hard to learn their process as well. But I've done like 4 or 5 nice size projects for them, and I'm really starting to learn, and everything's starting to click, even though it's really complicated. CCI, that is a company that manages everything for the Army garrison out on the Arsenal, and they just have a ton of work. They actually have a trailer set up right beside the garrison, and just because they have so much interaction with the garrison, because they manage practically all of the construction projects on the Arsenal except for NASA. They do all the FBI stuff, Missile Defense Agency, Army, just everything, ATF, I mean, everything. So I got in there. I used to work at Turner Construction, and there's about 4 people from Turner Construction that work at CCI right now. So that is from past relationships. Jesse Stutz, I really started doing work for them through past relationships, and then I got like a few slab pour backs, transformer pads, things of that nature. And then I was involved with the Associated Builders and Contractors, or ABC, of North Alabama, and that's when I started talking to some of their management team, and that's when things like really kicked off. So now I've got like a great relationship with them. Whenever I'm doing general contracting stuff, they do a ton of my electrical work. They have a ton. They have like they're probably the largest electrical company in Huntsville. And anytime they have concrete work, such as the transformer pads or just whatever, light pole bases, this, that, they call me. And so that's a great relationship to have. UAH, I actually graduated from UAH. I bid on a public project for UAH. It was a smaller one. I won, but then they didn't have the proper funding for it. So you have to like pay $50 or something to get a set of plans from UAH. So I got a set of plans, got the job, lost the job, went to turn my plans back in to get my $50 back. And then the facilities director was standing right there. And I started talking to the facilities director, and I think he was excited that I graduated from UAH. And so he was like, well, we've got a curb that the president's been complaining about. Why don't you give me a quote and go fix the curb? So we tore out like 30, 40 feet of curb. After we tore out like 30, 40 feet of curb, he said, all right, you did a good job on that. Now we need some bicycle pads. And then bicycle pads turned into sidewalks, and sidewalks turned into redoing an entrance. And then that turned into some interior work. And then next thing I knew, I probably had done like 30, 40 projects at UAH over the past few years. A lot of smaller stuff, but now I'm on my largest one. It was a public bid, and it's a $800,000 cyber lab renovation in the business building where I actually got my degree. So that's where I'm at right now. It's pretty cool working in the school where you got your degree. And then the Department of Public Works, that is actually CCI. So DPW works hand in hand with CCI. Sometimes the Department of Public Works will bid it out. CCI is just like the contracting firm for the Department of Public Works. But then sometimes CCI on larger projects will bid it out and also do the contracting.
Okay.
Anytime you work with a large institution, there's just going to be a lot of, you just got to learn their processes because they're pretty set in stone, and you just kind of got to be flexible and work with them.
Okay. Blake, we appreciate you. Christine, can you go back to the previous slide, to Blake's slide? There are three things that I took away from Blake's talk to us. And there are three things that we talk about all the time. And it's good that you hear it from a DBE that has started at the bottom and worked his way up. He said relationships multiple times. And we tell our DBEs all the time, this industry is about relationships. People want to know you. They want to know your work. They want to know who you've worked with before. So as our number one, let's take that to heart. It's a lot of times about relationships. Number two, he said that he got one of his projects or more projects by being in a professional organization. I believe Blake said with the Associated Builders and Contractors. There's the ABC, there's the AGC, which is the Associated General Contractors. There's all kinds of organizations all over the state that if you can become involved with in your local area, they talk to each other. They know who's doing good work, who's available for jobs. So professional associations and organizations are also key to building new relationships and finding new work. And third, he said one of the ways that he built a relationship or found a new market was from a seminar that connected him with NASA. I'm pretty sure, Blake, that is the one that Alabama A&M University puts on every year. And I know they always invite NASA to come to that one. So your supportive services in your area are crucial for you to stay in contact with. I know that they send, multiple reminders of events they're having, of people they can contact you with. So if you're a DBE, make sure that you are taking full advantage of your regional DBE supportive service offices, because they can connect you with people that can get work for you. So those are just my three main takeaways from Blake that we like for our DBEs to focus on. We have run a few minutes over. I apologize for that, but I think we had two really great presentations that shared a lot of information for the DBEs. If you need more information on anything that you heard, please contact one of us with the Mentor-Protege Program, contact your supportive service offices. We are here to help the DBEs in any way we can. That is all that I have. If there's anybody on the line that has a question, feel free to chime in now. Okay, I'm not hearing any. We will see you next month for our letting seminar. We appreciate you being with us this month. We will be virtual again next month. Hopefully in the coming months, we will be able to take this show on the road again and see some people in person. But until then, you can find us on our monthly letting seminars on Zoom. So